10 years ago, two men had a dream. Their journey began at Gary Stearman's kitchen table in the presence of the ministry's attorney, who asked them a probing question: "What is your mission statement?" They crafted it that very day to reach the world with the gospel message through the study of Bible prophecy and to share the good news that Jesus is coming soon, saving people from the coming tribulation. Starting from scratch with little money, no mailing list, no email list, and little else but a burning passion for studying and sharing the prophecies of the Bible, Gary and Bob forged a new pathway. After spending 25 and 20 years respectively working with J.R. Church at Prophecy in the News, the Lord called them to follow his leading and launch a new ministry they called Prophecy Watchers. Their first website was constructed by Bob's son, Brad, and it officially launched September 19, 2014. The ministry's longtime graphic designer, Daniel Wright, designed the new ministry's logo and graphics, making our startup look far better than we ever expected. The first videos were shot in Gary's family room by the ministry's video editor, Tyler Wood, using a tiny camera that would shut off after 12 minutes or so. We never knew when the camera might overheat, causing us to lose the entire recording. So we had to talk really fast. Then there was the next-door neighbor with his untimely weed whacker and the UPS driver ringing the doorbell at the most inopportune times. But press on we did with limited resources. Who can forget our very first video and Gary's first words?
You know, I haven't retired. I haven't been resting. I've been making big plans.
Of course, God was the one making those big plans. Desperate for professional television cameras and a return to the airwaves, we launched what seemed like a crazy promotion, offering a copy of Gary's Time Travelers of the Bible book, the only product we had at the time, for a gift of any amount. Then what seemed like the impossible happened. Thousands of old friends found us online and overwhelmed Bob's wife, Chris, with a mountain of orders. Then came the shock of a lifetime. One of the ministry's longtime friends, a man from the Far East, sent us a late-night text. It read, "I pledge $100,000 to help Prophecy Watchers launch their new ministry." God was opening doors in unexpected ways. The ministry's motto quickly became, "Trust the Lord." We launched a small bookstore in Gary's church, stocked with a handful of books and DVDs provided for free from friends of the ministry like L.A. Marzulli, Tom Horn, Bill Salas, Billy Crone, and Ken Johnson. We purchased our first 3 television cameras and began airing a weekly program on DirecTV, the Dish Network, and a handful of familiar Christian stations across the country. Only in the age of the internet could we have come so far so fast. A year later, with Daniel Wright's help, we launched the Prophecy Watcher magazine, followed by our first prophecy conference in Colorado Springs, our first trip to Israel, and the acquisition of our very first headquarters in Oklahoma City, a beautiful home that had been converted into an insurance office located on a busy suburban street, surrounded by hundreds of apartments. The existing family room, entertainment center, and fireplace became our built-in TV studio set, and the master bedroom instantly served as a place for our out-of-town television guests. We nicknamed it the L.A. Marzulli Memorial Suite, someone who's had a great influence on the ministry's success in many ways. Then we converted the home's 2-car garage into a very crowded shipping headquarters, which has now become the world's most trusted Bible prophecy bookstore. God blessed the work of our hands, and after a few years, we outgrew that residential building. And due to the fact that this converted house and studio was not soundproofed, we experienced some of the funniest moments in the ministry's history.
It's an imminent event.
There they go.
Well, this is extraordinary.
Oh. Okay, that was a good...
Kinds of churches we're talking about, they've dropped eschatology.
You can start with that. Wow. Really?
Because it really interrupts the flow.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
You got to keep your adrenaline up.
Right.
Okay.
me.
Boy, you guys need to build a studio.
Other factions have dibs on this part of the city or that part of the city.
What happened?
Truck.
Oh,
One of our famous passing truck incidents.
Sounds like a dump truck.
And you've talked with Dr. David Jacobs, who is very, very frank, after years of study, that demons are walking among us in human skin. And they look very strange.
We have to get a building. We have to get a building. Bob called John. Get him on the phone. Tell him we can't postpone any longer.
Okay.
Then came another shocker. One day Tyler walked in and let us know that the Trinity Broadcasting Network's Oklahoma City headquarters might be going up for sale. We were stunned. 13,500 square feet of office space and a 4,000 square foot soundproofed television studio was now available. Bob laughed and said, "Hey, maybe we should buy it." We assumed it was a $3 or $4 million building, far out of reach, but it turned out it was for sale for $1 million. Still quite a financial stretch, but remember our motto, trust the Lord. He knew we needed a larger space to continue to grow the ministry, and at $74 a square foot, with room for expansion right next door, we believe God gave us the bargain of the century. L.A. Marzulli's late partner, Richard Shaw, created a drone video helping with the acquisition, and friends of the ministry, people who believed in our mission, gave generously to help us acquire these new headquarters. Many of their names hang on the wall of honor located in our building's front lobby today. What seemed impossible, God made possible. Then the new adventure began. New cameras, new television sets, new lighting, new floors, new carpets, a massive warehouse for storage, and 2 huge shipping rooms that now house 3,000 prophetic resources. Our prayers have been answered. Seeds are now being planted in faraway lands to appreciative people who've never had access to sound prophetic teaching, and lives are being changed. Then came a strange telephone call from L.A. Marzulli, straight from the ski slopes of Lake Tahoe. He was singing the praises of a man you now know as Mondo Gonzalez, a local pastor who, we must say, enjoyed a spectacular view of the lake and the snow-capped mountains. As Bob sat at his desk in semi-shock, he laughed and said, "Does he want to move to Oklahoma City? Gary could use a co-host." His response, "I don't know, I'll ask him." Of course, unbeknown to us, that discussion had already taken place. 2 months later, Mondo left the lake and the mountains behind and arrived in Oklahoma City, full of energy and excitement. From a small church to an audience of millions of people, Mondo's world was about to change. Then tragedy struck. Gary had a heart attack and Mondo was thrown right into the fire. The pastor suddenly became the ministry's new television host. First ever television interview was his very first television interview ever. Mondo brought a new excitement to the ministry, and Gary discovered that he and Mondo shared a love of biblical astronomy. Mondo led the ministry down a new road, single-handedly constructing the Psalm 19 Observatory, funded entirely by a new friend of Prophecy Watchers who shared our love of the heavens and God's magnificent creation. Prophecy Watchers is now producing Hubble-quality images for a whole lot less zeros. 2 partners have joined us in the Psalm 19 project, Brad Brady from Virginia and Micah Noack from Idaho, shooting and recording spectacular images that the psalmist never got to see. These images are now being reproduced on beautiful metal prints and also becoming part of our annual Psalm 19 calendar. So what's left for Prophecy Watchers? Have we reached our peak as a ministry? Worldwide television coverage, a monthly magazine, prophecy conferences, a Roku channel, an email newsletter, a growing social media presence, new prophetic documentaries, Josh Peck's new program, Into the Supernatural, and a new program we're getting ready to launch with Gary Mondo and Matt Freeman called Pastor to Pastor. Perhaps our most rewarding work revolves around our international mission trips with Billy Crone and some of the speakers at this conference. Billy's traveling prophetic roadshow is taking the gospel to both the churched and the unchurched in faraway places where the study of Bible prophecy is mostly non-existent, and people are giving their lives to Christ as we sow seeds into eternity. Yes, exciting things are happening, but where do we go from here? Well, here's the rest of God's story. 5 years ago, when the ministry purchased TBN's headquarters, there was an empty 3-acre lot right next door to our building. Although it sat in the shadow of Trinity's 1,100-foot transmission tower, TBN had no use for it and graciously included it in the building sale. It has sat vacant for the last 5 years, and in the meantime, we've fielded several lucrative offers for it, some approaching $500,000. But we never felt comfortable having a landscaping company or an office building next door. All we ever dreamed of and prayed for was a church right next door. Then, God brought Matt Freeman into our lives, the pastor of New City Church in Oklahoma City. Matt became a member of the Prophecy Watchers Board of Directors last year, and both Gary and Mondo have spoken at his small church, which currently meets in a strip center. Just like Prophecy Watchers, they've grown to the point where they need a much bigger space. As you may have guessed by now, we have the perfect location for them. That 3-acre vacant lot located in a rapidly growing area, surrounded by hundreds of new homes and huge apartment complexes. People who need Jesus. We prayed for a prophecy preaching church and God answered our prayers. Partnering together, we're going to build that church right next door to the ministry. Could local prophecy conferences, Bible studies, and Sunday morning live streaming services from Oklahoma City be far behind? Matt plans for an up to 500-seat sanctuary along with a gymnasium surrounded by Sunday school rooms. After sitting under his preaching for several hours, we've discovered a man after our own heart. You're going to hear things in his church that you've probably never heard before in church. Shades of Prophecy Watchers. For the Prophecy Watchers team, it's the culmination of a dream, the cherry on the sundae, perhaps the final piece of the puzzle before the rapture of the church. Can there be a greater honor than building the house of God? A building that will affect lives for all eternity? A prophecy preaching church. Who knew? God did, and his timing is always perfect.